We'll do that later. Oh, here's a leaked audio of Matt Walsh from the Surfs. I don't know. Is this real, chat?
The culture with them, of course they're going to. Of course they're going to. That's what makes them Mexican.
New leaked audio of Matt Walsh arguing with his co-host about how you can't separate race and culture and how Mexicans can never be Americans or white. He goes back to mock indigenous genocide and boasts about the spirit of what culture and society. Matt Walsh claims a culture of difference led to the Civil War. He does multiple variations of the 14 words that the Civil War will happen again unless something is done. When he gets pushed back, you keep bringing this up, and you make it seem like I'm making some racist point, he says. It was on his radio show back in the day. Oh, nice. While I did clean up the audio of Matt Walsh making white supremacist talking points, I did not edit the content of what he says. If you'd like to listen to the original audio, here it is. WZBH, Matt and Crank, white culture.
Of course they will. That is not.
I'm saying if they stop identifying themselves as just Mexicans and they start, appreciating the country that they currently reside.
What is the country? I mean, America.
I mean, this is so funny. This is like what he's saying. What he's saying is like such a classic Republican bit. Like the whole like Mexicans don't want to assimilate. I mean, they say this still. I don't know. Like, yeah, it's fucking racist. Yeah, but like, how is this any different than what they say still to this day? Like, I'm sure Matt Walsh would probably say the exact same things right now.
Well, then, what does that mean? I mean, if you take away the Anglo-Saxon culture, which is what started this damn country.
Yeah, but you can
not damn country.
You can adopt philosophies, is my point. So I'm confused by race or culture. Like, what are you promoting?
Both. You can't separate them. They're the same. What I'm saying is not like I'm making this up. This has just been the case. Go back through history. This is just the way it works. Is that a country is more than just a border. It's more than just a supply. If all America was just like a plot of land we happen to be sitting on, then it would mean nothing to me. Okay. But because it's also identified with a way of thinking, a way of life, a culture, a philosophy, because that was all there, and it was an Anglo-Saxon thing, then, that's what I identify with. It's not the location and the geography that I identify with. Yeah, I like the rolling hills, and I like the Purple Mountains majesty and all that too. But what I like most is the culture and philosophy that was distinctly Western Anglo-Saxon. And that's what it was. And so when these other groups come, and you say, well, as long as they don't but they have brought their culture with them. So you can say as long as they don't, but they have and they will continue to. So let's forget about that, because that's exactly what they're doing. And of course, why wouldn't they, when the original inhabitants, the original inhabitants, of course, were Native Americans, but forget about that for a second, everyone else has. When the original inhabitants of at least the United States of America are dying off because we've decided we're too cool to have kids, then why wouldn't they bring their culture? Because there's a cultural void. What I'm saying is that when we die off, as we have been, we have left a culture.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest oopsie here is just that, like, this is a while ago. So he's just more open about it. Like, conservatives haven't really changed their mentality about this sort of thing, like this kind of white nationalism at all. This has never changed. They still do it. The only difference is that they've, I guess, changed the aesthetics surrounding it a little bit. Because at the end of the day, they're liberals. Everyone's a liberal, so they don't want to fuck up the optics. You know what I mean? But I don't think they've ever, like, I don't think Matt Walsh's perspective on the matter is any different today. I'm sure if I were to look at like a Matt Walsh video now, it would probably be a little bit more palatable by today's standards. But the sentiment, although sanitized, would be exactly the fucking same. Like, we don't need immigration. Why are we letting these immigrants come into the country and ruining like Western culture? Like, instead of saying white Anglo-Saxon culture, they'll say Western culture, right? Western civilization. They say Judeo-Christian culture. But even then, it's like, well, okay, Mexicans are a part of Western culture, part of the Western hemisphere, but it doesn't matter. You know what that means. You know he means like America and Europe. white people in America and white people in Europe. That's what he means when he says that.
Cultural void. And that void will be filled with this other hodgepodge of cultures. And I'll tell you something else. When you have just a geographical location, when there's no agreement at all, okay, this is who we are, on what kind of what's important to you, what your values are and all that, that country cannot exist for very long. And that's where civil wars come from. That's why we fought the Civil War to begin with, was because there was a cultural difference between the North and the South. And we're going to be heading that way again if we don't say, okay, this is...
Wait, what? Yeah, the cultural difference between people who wanted to own slaves and people who were like, no, that's not allowed. Is that what he means? Like, what the fuck?
Who we are. And by the way, the people saying this is who we are need to be plentiful and strong.
I agree.
And potent.
I just personally feel that you don't have to be an Anglo-Saxon to continue that line of thought. I just think people need to be more patriotic about the country in which they...
Yeah, this guy is the other guy across from him is basically like another conservative, but just not as conservative as Matt Walsh, who has like this belief that like, oh, I don't like the Mexicans because they're just not feeling America enough. And also that he probably believes in his mind, in the back of his mind at least, that they can't really feel fully America enough. But, you know, he's just kind of saying like, no, you don't understand. It's just like they're not patriotic enough. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? By the third generation, any kind of like cultural distinction that anyone has from any ethnic background, from any other nationality, is completely lasered by American monoculture. It is too powerful. It's so powerful. It works. It basically changes people's attitudes in other countries, even if they never step foot inside a United States of America. Third generation, full assimilation across the board is completed.
They live, know more about its heritage and where it came from and how it sprang about. I mean, like, I married somebody that's, I don't think Maria's Anglo-Saxon, and she definitely has left her culture at the door. So, I mean, it would...
Oh, that's why he's more open-minded about Mexicans or whatever the fuck. Yeah. Yeah, you're a fucking dirty miscegenator. That's what he's going to say. That's what Matt Walsh is going to say.
If Maria and I have 5 kids, like, now I'm confused. Am I perpetuating the problem?
You see, you keep bringing this up, and it makes me look like I'm making some racist point. I know you say that's what you're trying to do, but that's obviously not what I'm saying. Have relations and kids with whoever you fall in love with. That's great, as long as they're the same gender. I'm fine with that. All I'm saying is that as a general rule, you know, for our culture and our identity to continue, we need to just procreate and keep that culture going. Because you say, well, come over here and have some patriotism and identify with us. Why should they identify with us when we don't identify with us?
Wait. My man literally said, yeah, by miscegenation, you are actually destroying American culture because you procreated with someone who's not white. And he just completely sidesteps. He completely sidesteps that point and just keeps going, yeah, no, I'm just not saying, like, you can't fuck a Mexican woman. Like, I'm just saying that, like, more white people need to fuck other white people. Come on.
When it's not even important enough to us to procreate and continue our culture, why should they give a damn about it? They don't. I don't blame them. I mean, what?
This guy, if he had any fucking brain cells, would just try to be like, do you think my wife deliberately and willingly wanted to eviscerate this white culture that you speak of by marrying me and having children with me?
What exact philosophy and values have we shown that are so important to us?
But I mean, I think the point is that if you're patriotic Americans that love the country, that have ingrained themselves in this country for several generations, need to start promoting more generations of people.
But it's easy to say these vague things like, well, promote and do this and that. But it's the reality. If we actually want to talk about how to solve the problem.
I like that he thinks also that, like, culture is somehow genetically transmitted. Like, I mean, that's as white supremacist as it gets. I mean, this is basically the 14 words, you know, we must protect a future for our white children. Like, that's basically what he's saying. I mean, he is a white supremacist. Ironic because, like, as far as whiteness as a anything beyond like a made up social phenomena, if it were to be like a legitimate race or a legitimate culture, not defined on what it's not, which is black, but what is defined on what it is, then trying to reinforce some mechanism of purity would probably be one of the only tangible, definable aspects of what it means to be white, which is ironic because that once again turns into the same conversation that I was mentioning, which is you cannot define whiteness on tangible properties of what it is, white culture, I mean. You can only define it on what it's not, which is black. That's it. Whiteness as a political identity is a perfectly crafted social construct. There are white people in every country. That doesn't mean that their skin is white, by the way. That just means that they are the dominant majority population. In Turkey, it's the Turkish people. You know what I mean? That's how it works.
It's real simple, but it involves us all actually doing something, which, like I said a million times now, is frankly just having kids and passing that down to your kids. If you don't do that, then you're not helping the problem. Sorry, you're not. You're not helping. I mean, we can all say how we'll just promote the values of this and that. But the way you promote values is to have children and pass it on to them. And if you don't do that, then it's just vague platitudes that mean nothing. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just what it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is straight up white supremacist shit right here. It's like you have to somehow preserve the sanctity of the white race by continuing to have white children.
You know, I mean, and I'm no exemption from that. I mean, if I'm 40 and I haven't had a single kid, then I haven't helped. Everyone make their own. I'm just talking in general. The way in general that this country will reclaim itself, that's the way. Or we can become extinct. You know, if that's the route we choose, then hey, it was a good run. Got a good 300 years out of it, almost. If you don't do that, then you're not helping the problem. Sorry, you're not. You're not helping.
Bro, this is like when I joke about like destroying American civilization by like fucking, you know, all of my haters' moms. But he like unironically believes it. It's so stupid.